Hi legends, welcome to another episode on the HighLevel Experience Podcast. Today, I'm interviewing a fellow agency owner who's been crashing it with HighLevel. This guy spent over 15 years dominating the auto industry, climbing all the way to sales director at Cadillac dealership, but he decided to leave the corporate world behind and go all in on his passion, marketing and sales automation, which is what we are all passionate about, right? Now, he's running an agency called Pulse Marketing Solutions, helping local health and wellness businesses scale with custom websites, paid campaigns, and CRM systems. He's even built out a whole CRM brand for the MedSpa world called MedSpaTools on the back of HighLevel, a system we all love to use. So today, we're going to talk about what's working for him, how he's leveraging HighLevel in his agency, bundling it with other services, and scaling his business. This is one of those conversations where if you're running a HighLevel agency, you're going to want to take some notes. So let's dive in. Please welcome to the show, Zach Brick from Pulse Marketing Solutions.
Thank you so much, Vit. I really appreciate you having me, man. I'm not really a big guy. I watch your show. I listen to your show, and you have so many big names that come through, and I really enjoyed every one of your episodes. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Zach, for being open about this. But let me actually correct you, because I think yes, whilst they're like big names, and not like correct you what you're saying. No, that's all good.
I got you.
Like
you're good. You're good.
all like yes, I've interviewed some big names and people who are really successful. Most of them are vendors as well.
Yeah.
Right. I haven't really interviewed that many agency owners. And when you think about it as a community, all of us, we are not there. Most of us are not there, right? The majority of us are trying to grow, trying to get our first 10, 20, 50 customers or 100 customers, So that's where most of us are. And that's where most of the people listening to this podcast are. And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have somebody that is on our level to share the journey? And actually, that's the direction I want to go more. I want to have more guests like you, because I think, there's the familiarity and the struggle is what helps people realize, you're not alone. And it's not always just about highlighting the people on top, because yes, it is inspiring, but it's good.
Soul crushing and amazing all at the same time. You're like, wow, these people can do some amazing things. That being said, man, I love my story. I own my story, and I'm embracing my story. And, the struggles that you go through as a small agency to get where you need to go, you can't get where you're going without going through that first. So it's so important to have a story and to be able to kind of fight through each step of the process.
100%.
Yep. So yeah, go for it.
No, yeah, I was just going to say, so you've got this full service agency now, but you mentioned realizing it's better to focus on a specific niche when we talked before this recording. And I was curious, to know what was the turning point for where you were like, all right, enough of trying to do everything. Let's get laser focused. And how has that decision played out for you?
So really it's kind of a long story. Early on, I was pretty much on my own starting things, and somehow I ended up in the auto industry, and I did that for 15 years. And 2 years ago, the dealership sold, and I was like, okay, I have all this experience managing sales teams and integrating CRM and doing everything at kind of the corporate level with big auto. And I'm like, you know what? They sold the store. I've got to do something. And I just can't do this anymore. And at the time, I think, my daughter was 1.5, my boy was 5, and I was just missing a ton of time. So of course I started an agency, and it was more of a generalist agency. And the first piece of advice coming from what I've learned is don't do that. I think a lot of us are let's start an agency, and we'll do paid advertising, and we'll do marketing, and we're not going to be specific about a niche. And, it's hard in the beginning because I could have went back to auto, but I'm no, I'm not doing auto. This is not what I'm doing. And so I actually made it kind of work for the first year. I ended up at 10 clients, and this is before HighLevel. And, I was actually finding some success with Google Ads, and I got to kind of learn several different niches that helped me along the way to kind of figure out what I like, what I don't like doing, which is really important, because if you find yourself doing a lot of things that you don't like, you're probably doing the wrong thing. So in going through that experience of starting a generalist agency, I did realize real quick that there were certain things that I just didn't like. And
What, for example?
so certain industries just aren't as much fun.
Mhm.
I worked with, a lot of service-based businesses and the people were nice, but like I just had no interest in running ads campaigns for painting or
Right.
HVAC or anything that's related to a service-based business. And so funny story, like this was about a year ago and I was just starting to hear about, and I ran across High Level in kind of an interesting way. I was in the backyard. I was doing some yard work. I was kind of stressed out because I just didn't feel like I had like a good direction. And what I was doing just didn't feel like I could scale it. It just felt like the wrong path. And so, of course, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hop on YouTube and I'm going to listen to a bunch of people and I'm just going to try to soak up some stuff and then I'm going to try to implement it. Because I'm a big believer of like, if you watch stuff, you have to like sit down and you have to do it for your mind to like actually retain it. You have to write stuff down. You have
Yeah.
to take notes. It's a really important piece of developing your own mindset and how you're going to move forward. And long story short, I ran across Adam Earhart, which I really appreciate. He's on the leaderboard with High Level. He's always like top 3. He's way up there. And I started listening to all his material. I kind of basically just like crushed a bunch of his material real quick. And, he would throw like little tidbits in some of his earlier videos. He's like, all of my agencies use High Level. And I'm like, what is this? And part of the reason I was kind of curious about it was I knew being a generalist agency that I needed some sort of CRM. I needed a marketing tool to just be the backbone of everything I was doing. And so, I'm like, all right, I'll check it out. It's like a year ago. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll sign up for this 297 plan. Let's just see where it goes. And I started getting into it. I'm like, wow, like this is everything that I need. It's like all here. Now, that being said, you first get into High Level as a new agency. It's like, oh my God, there's just like too much here. I don't even know where to start. Right.
Mhm.
And I was already pretty familiar with CRM. So at least I had like a leg up because working in the auto industry, CRMs are a big thing. And we dealt with a lot of big CRMs like Vin Solutions and Dealer Socket, some of those other huge companies. A lot of them are owned all by Cox Automotive. And so at least I got a pretty good grasp of how that works, especially doing CRM integrations. And so in like having that understanding and jumping on High Level, Adam Earhart kind of was my catalyst because I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this is the thing. And then I started seeing like how he would kind of name drop Go High Level like at the end of all of his videos. And I'm like, man, that is so smart. And the way he's doing it. And like, he's so far beyond what I'm doing right now. But it kind of was the catalyst for like pushing me forward into Go High Level. And I think that's really where I kind of realized real quick. I jumped into the community and we've got like almost 80,000 people in that community. And everybody's like niche, niche, niche. Now, I just listened to Charles Higgins, who's like the opposite of that. Like, you could just run the CRM. Now, that's not me. I don't have that skill set. I'm not technical like that. What I do realize is that in learning as a generalist agency and figuring out some of these niches, I ran into a med spa kind of by accident. I had some old tattoos from when I was like 16 that I really regret. And I was like, okay, so I got to find a local med spa to where I can get a tattoo removal. And sure enough, it was so funny. I walk in and the doctor is there and he's got a background in plastic surgery and he knows his stuff. And we just hit it off. It was like right off the bat, we're just chit chatting. And like, I think we talked for like almost 45 minutes before I even got any services done. And he's like, hey, so I know you do marketing. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I'll do marketing for you. I won't even charge you. And he's like, no, 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 no. We'll trade services. And so this was, yeah, like roughly about a year ago. And long story short, man, like I started getting into it and I started talking to more med spa owners from that point forward and growing the relationship with this local med spa. And he's like, hey, I'll do a video for your website or, if you need this, let me know. And so I set him up on some really basic stuff. And this is really good for new people in High Level. Like I started him out in an advanced missed call text back. So basically a schedule Monday through Friday sends out one message, weekend sends out a different message, after hours sends a different message. And I got that rolling for him. And, we all go through like the little granular struggles initially, like, okay, so he's got a number now. How do I incorporate the number? I ended up just replacing one number on his Google My Business early on. And then he still uses his other number for general contact with clients. But it was amazing for him. It changed the way he was able to get back to clients and not miss opportunities. And it's so small, and High Level talks about it all the time. Like there are so many features. I think one of the most important things is like grab a hold of each feature at a time and get a really good grasp on how it works,
Yep.
and then build it out yourself so you've got a firm understanding of how that works. And I've been doing that with each feature, just layering it on through my progression, and now starting to actually kind of catch my stride with High Level. So, wow. I mean, just that first interaction, and that's what really pushed me into the med spa niche. And it's been fun. I like working with those people. I like doing the work. I like interacting with them. And the other big side benefit of most med spa owners is they're usually doctor owned. So that means there's some dough behind it so they can afford marketing. A lot of people jump into a niche and like, oh, I'm going to do this niche. Well, do they
Yeah.
have the money to support that? Are there enough locations? What's your game plan there?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I just want to wind the clock back a bit just before we get into all the high level stuff, because I know we're like both excited. The guys listening are excited about high level, I'm sure. But just want to go all the way back to like, you had this cushy job, working at the dealership for the auto industry, making that massive switch from that 6-figure, whatever that was, like that's pretty cushy, like it's pretty comfortable. You've got family. What made you like I know you were talking like, so that the store was shutting down, but like you could have easily relocated and whatnot, right? What made you in particular say like, now I'm gonna go all in and like try this marketing thing because I'm passionate about it?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm crazy. I think that's legitimately the answer to it. But, stepping back, like I was always kind of entrepreneurial even as a kid. Like my dad was an old hippie, and like he would take me to these big events, and I would sell jewelry when I was like literally like 10, 15 years old, through that whole time. And anyway, long story short, my dad passed early on when I was younger, and I kind of went through a lot early on. I was like in foster care. It was just always tough. So I never really had a fear of change, I guess. And I think that's why I did well in the auto industry. I was always just in front of everything. And somehow after being in foster care and going through all this craziness, I ended up in an amazing boarding school out in like Estes, Colorado, through like applying, trying to get out of my circumstances in life. And when I graduated, I moved to Boulder, and Boulder, Colorado is insane. It's where Google's headquarters are. It's just a really thriving, amazing place in Colorado. And I worked a bunch of jobs. I did all this different stuff. I started actually in auto sales. I got a sales job at a Nissan store, and I hated it. It was horrible.
Mm.
And then funny enough, I did tree service after that. And that was actually amazing. I've still got some connections from a tree service guy who ended up in software selling a estimating tool for tree service companies. And it's funny, to this day in my marketing company, I still get referrals from him for all different industries, like coming in. And a lot of times I'm like, I can't do this, but it's
Yeah.
just amazing. Like those relationships you start early on. Anyway, moving forward in like 2004, I married a girl from Mongolia, and like, it was almost like an accident. We were like dating for like 6 months, and boom, we're married. And I'm like, okay, I've got to get serious. I've got to get a real job. So fast forward to 2008, the Cadillac job. I started as a sales guy, lowest of the low, didn't really have, a ton of experience. And I kind of just worked my way up through all these different roles. And sure enough, they promoted me to like an internet director. And then from there, I started overseeing some of their CRM integrations. And they started having me work on their like automated nurture sequences. And then I ended up working on their Google ads. And then I'm working on their Facebook. And then suddenly I'm the sales director of the store. And, that was like a full 15 years of my life. But I just, I guess I never really like considered anything else. I just went like the path that was given. And
Yeah.
I did end up in like a high 6-figure job. As we all know, kind of leading up to COVID, like cars were a really difficult thing to acquire, and dealers were selling them for over MSRP. And it was just a crazy thing. Well, yeah, you're right. It was a cushy job. I was making crazy money, but I was not spending the time with family that I needed to. And especially like being a new dad, like I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. And
Mm.
quite honestly, I was unhealthy. Like now I've completely shifted. I started running, I started working out, I started like life change stuff, like really paving a new path. So when it came about that the dealership was being sold, and this is an old dealership in Boulder, Colorado, right in the heart, it's like off Pearl Street, which is like the main crag. I'm like, man, I have to like make a change. And I considered going to another dealership and I kind of tried it for a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? I spent so much of my life doing this. And this was like a full 15, 16 years of doing this. And I'm like, okay, I've got some money saved up. I know how to do these things. I have experience with these things. I'm confident that I can be successful and generate leads for businesses with Google Ads and Facebook marketing and pretty much anything else for that matter. And let's be real, man, like I had to break a lot of patterns early on just to like, wow, I'm on my own and I have to do this differently than I did it before. So, like going through all of that, like was really like the catalyst of like, okay, I'm going to start my own agency and I'm going to do this. And again, I started as a generalist and bad idea because there's no way to serve every niche. There just isn't. It's tough because then you're like pulled in like a million different directions all the time and you can't like build an offer or build a strategic framework for multiple industries. It has to be really narrowed down to something very specific. So, yeah, I took the leap, man.
Yeah. Well done, mate. And, this is something that, speaking to other people in the community, speaking to the guests on the podcast, Rob Bailey mentions it a lot. The simplicity is the key. Like you talked about like a foot in the door offers. Like it's just, I just constantly keep hearing it over and over again. I've tried it myself in my own agency. It's just amazing where we like to sometimes overcomplicate things. I mean, I'm a bit of a nerd. I don't know about you. Like, when it comes to high level, like you can go really down the rabbit hole, like a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, keeping it simple, but also focusing on a particular niche. 100%, I agree with you because when you do, you can then also maximize your content marketing. So your messaging, everything is like, and obviously you have to like reach out to that industry somehow and obviously you also have competition, but if you do a good job and if you focus on building good relationships, people will, I mean, you mentioned it, you still getting referrals from your past relationships, so it works. But on the high level side of things and merging where you started with traditional sort of an agency like a generalist agency doing services to then finding out about HighLevel as an underlying CRM as a tool, but still doing the services. How do you like? What's like? You know, for the other guys listening as well. Like, I'm just curious, what's been the key for you to like making that combo work for your clients?
Yeah, for sure. So, well, there is a little backstory. I have a little bit more experience that I didn't share. And in 2017, my wife was laid off and we started a 3D ultrasound center, which is like where they do the baby facial imaging. And she got all the certs for sonography and like learned that business. And I did all the marketing for it. And I kind of like went back to like, wow, okay, so this is kind of medical related. It's something I'm already comfortable with, and that's why I think I kind of like shot towards med spas after I kind of figured out that I liked working with them. But we grew that business, and I think in growing that business and having success with it, it also gave me a bit more confidence to also go out on my own. Like right now, we own SEO for the Denver market. She's got like 1,000 5-star reviews, and we did that with like Acuity before I even knew about High Level. So like, just like one
Scheduling
little
software,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So we just set up an automation on the back end that sent an email after 1 week and then sent another email after 2 weeks asking for that review. And the first email is like, hey, if you could write us a review. The second email was like, hey, just in case you missed it. And just from doing that from 2017, now that we have such a powerful organic ranking, it's just killed it for us. So we've got this other business that had some success and it was medical related. So I probably should have thrown that in there at some point, but really that's what kind of pushed me towards falling into a niche. And again, if you don't have a niche, it makes it really difficult, and you can really get very distracted by all of the different directions that being a generalist agency will take you. And I get in the weeds too. I am a geek, just like you said. I literally spent the last 2 weeks like customizing my dashboard and go high level and like breaking little granular things and having to go back and fix them. But yeah, like the little features that are get your foot in the door, like missed call text back, really do get you started, because once you've got the confidence of whoever you're selling to and whatever niche it is, and you implement one thing and it does well, then you implement another thing and you can just kind of layer that on. And then suddenly you've got like a nice high monthly retainer client for something that you figured out that you're comfortable with selling, that you understand, and that you can also provide support for. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important, just not overwhelming yourself, because if you get into the weeds, man, you'll get lost. You can't learn everything in the platform. And I think everybody says this for the most part, like, don't try to learn everything and go high level right off the bat. Just don't do it, you
When it
know?
comes to that, like going down in the weeds and complex, so because you will come across clients that need something a bit more robust, something a bit more complex, right? Eventually, right? What's your take on like taking the shortcut and using snapshots?
Yeah. Dangerous, very dangerous. I believe if you buy a snapshot, and I've heard other people say this too, is like you need to go back and like rebuild that entire snapshot yourself so you know how it works. And I really believe in that, because if you're gonna learn go high level, and if you're gonna be able to create and really set up some awesome automations for clients, you have to know how those work. And I get like you want to take a shortcut, or somebody does, because like, oh, I'm starting this business and I want the best med spa snapshot. I've bought a few of them, and like I go back and look at them. I'm like, a lot of times they're just garbage. And I don't know how I feel about that. Now, I know I've heard a lot about your snapshots and they're really great, and you've got good video tutorials and that kind of thing. But I still think that if you buy a snapshot, you should go duplicate some of those automations and figure out how they work for yourself. I think that's a really important piece of it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's literally the first thing I send to people when they purchase one of my snapshots is like, don't put it into your like main sub account that you already have your stuff on. Like create a separate sub account that's like a white canvas, load it in there and try and set it up. Go in the workflows, go through the whole thing, get a good understanding of it, because you want to have confidence. And this is kind of a segue to what I was going to get to. I was going to follow up on what you were saying in terms of working with niches. When you have that confidence, and the confidence is only going to be there if you've actually like experienced something, right? So either working in a particular niche or experience how a snapshot works, really having your hands on it. I think it's really important. Like my background is I used to work in fitness, be it personal training, managing gyms. So for me, it was really easy segue to then when I launched my own agency to then focus on fitness, on martial art clubs, gyms, and whatnot. And I was going to say something, and I just lost my train of thought. Yeah. So in a
Having the
nutshell,
experience. Yeah. Having the
having the nutshell,
experience. Yeah.
that's what I was going to get to. It's so having the experience super important, because I mean, selling foot in the door services, missed call text back pretty much works for any niche. It's very effective, and you could probably still sell that to any niche. But in the marketing and sales communication, you're also building a relationship and relatedness. And if you can't relate to someone's, usual like a nuanced language in their niche, you're not going to be able to speak the language. So they're going to pick up on that. And, so the opposite is you can, and everything is just like bread and
Yeah.
butter,
Buy a snapshot and then sell it, and you don't know what you're selling. It's
Oh,
funny because like I was just listening to Michael Pacito's podcast before this, and it's like, if you have to know what your value is. And like, I agree with that. Like, there's like, if you try to get into selling something, it was true for even automotive. Like, if you don't know your product, you can't sell it. It doesn't work. You have to have a really firm grasp of, what your customer avatar is, what their pain points are. And then you can really dig into selling how those services remedy those.
yeah.
And without that being a startup agency, that's where you really run into issues being a generalist, because you might get thrown off on a question that you just don't have the answer to. And if you try to sell a feature without understanding how it's going to solve their problems, it gets really messy. It does.
Yeah. And speaking, oh man, I had a really good segue just now. I sometimes I go like, things pop in my head as people talk, and like, oh, this is a really good segue, and then it's like a memory of goldfish. I was talking to my wife today, and she said something in the car. I asked her about something, and she's like, "Yeah, I already told you that." I'm like, how can you expect me like remembering these little things where like
You have a
I'm
5-year-old, man. You have a 5-year-old. That's the reality, you know?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that's right. You know, you mentioned Michael Placido. So yeah, we just did an episode, and we also talked a fair bit about the importance of customer journey. So one, having an experience in particular, niche, great, but also like understanding the buyer journey, your buyer journey, and also your customer's buyer journey, so you can best serve them is really really important. And I'm curious, like based on your experience, in the med spa, what do you find like an ideal customer buyer journey, like for your agencies in terms of like acquisition? Like if you're keen to share, how do you like? Do you have it mapped
yeah.
out? I mean, you probably do, right?
So like, yeah, so it's funny. I've actually been spending a ton of time on this. We just built out a brand new WordPress website that really speaks to the pain points of that industry, and that's MedSpaTools.com. And, one thing in going through that, you look at everything that you know from, and I obviously try to corner this doctor all the time and like just have good conversations with him about what's profitable in his business and what generates the most money. And then I almost work backwards. Like I hear these pain points, and then I think about the sales copy that's specific to those pain points. And then I go back and look at the services that I'm looking to provide and get really granular about like how my services are going to solve those individual pain points. And I actually have been using ChatGPT for this too. I don't write with ChatGPT for anybody. Like I use it as like an idea board. Like it's like my assistant. So recently in building out this website, I literally asked ChatGPT after providing all of this data for it to analyze on good sales copy for med spas. And I said, based on, these pain points after talking to the doctor, can you provide like 30 headlines about how our services solve those pain points? And I had all of these ideas in there. And obviously, like I probably used like 2 of them and not even all the way. I rewrote them because ChatGPT, like it takes a lot of training but having those idea resources is really helpful. So what I figured out is like by doing that, I was able to really speak to specific pain points that were also the most profitable pain points for agencies. Cause you also want to think about like, okay, if I'm going to get somebody into this funnel, I want to speak to what they want to sell the most, what's the most profitable for them. And when somebody does a Google search for, let's just use an example, Botox marketing, right? They're probably looking to help them sell more tox injections. And so I based all of my copy around that. So that's like really maybe a little too specific and maybe into the weeds. So I'm sorry there.
So
But
like example being like, you're not just going to rank for Botox, but you're going to try and rank for like injections and like really drill down into those, right?
yeah, so I live in Google Ads. One of my real strong points is Google Ads management.
Mhm.
And so obviously that's great because it's intent marketing and you can really focus in on people that are actively searching for your services. And it's funny, I just had another conversation with somebody else about this, but like if you like for my plan, at least with Google Ads and just advertising in general, especially if you're looking like on the national scale, is to like have very few keywords and focus in on things like Botox marketing and use like 3 keywords that are like that, like body sculpting marketing, and have 3 keywords and chase those in like 10 major cities and do exact match, which will at least be a bit more targeted for exactly what you're trying to achieve. Now, there's some weird things with like Google Ads. And again, I don't want to get in the weeds, but like a lot of people don't know this, but exact match is not exact match anymore. Google actually looks at the meaning of those exact match keywords. So in launching the med spa business, especially if you're starting out and you're trying to start a new niche, like, and you want to try to hit a national level for your marketing company, it might be a good idea to even more than focus on med spas in general, focus in on the granular services that a med spa offers
Right.
and then
Niche,
target
like
those search
niche,
terms.
niche within niche,
Niche, niche,
and that sort of
niche.
stuff.
Yep.
And also, I think, I mean, when you look at like if you do like a SEMrush report on a particular keyword, it's going to tell you like how competitive those are, right? So if you're going to go for
Yeah.
more general like Botox marketing, that's more general, that's more like more competitive. You're going to have to spend more money as opposed to if you go more niche within niche, right? You can find those little pockets of maybe some keywords that are not as competitive. Is that your favorite tool? What do you use?
Yeah. So
SEMrush or?
dude, believe it or not, like you can do all this in the keyword planner, right? In Google
Oh yeah,
Ads, like everything's there. Like, so it's provided to you. SEMrush, there's so many great resources. Neil Patel, like his website, like Uber Suggest,
He's got his own software now. It's like a
Uber
competition to
Suggest.
SEMrush. Yeah.
Yeah, Uber Suggest. So I do use that. It's an amazing tool. But a lot of it I just do right in Google Ads because then I can just go look. I'm already in there. I can see the, cost per click on those. And again, if you get really granular, like you don't want all this traffic. You want very specific traffic. So I'm a big believer, like stay away from anything broad search. That'll just ruin a campaign. Phrase match can be good, but exact match is where you want to be on a manual bid basis for Google Ads. Again, I'm in the weeds. I got to get out of there. But like for me with the marketing company, that's going to be my tax. So, if I'm going to provide services, marketing services specific to the med spa niche, I I'm going to have 3 or 4 funnels that are specific to granular services. So Botox marketing, body sculpting, tattoo removal, whatever that may be.
And they're also more profitable type of services because they're more like productized, especially like Botox injections, I would imagine be like profitable, less hassle or like as opposed to some operation, plastic surgery, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm definitely not targeting plastic surgery. So, a
Okay.
lot of the med spas that are out there, they're usually injectors, and then they're offering things like body sculpting and tattoo removal and laser hair removal and CO2 laser. So you could get really granular and just targeting those specific services. And there's some big marketing companies out there, and I love to look at what they're doing and just like do things similarly, but like in my own way, because I feel like what happens to a lot of the big agencies is they kind of forget to serve the smaller companies that are just coming out. So if your messaging really speaks to that with your sales copy, your conversion rates are just going to go up. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I've learned. I mean, I've gotten pretty good with Google Ads in general.
Here's a really good analogy. I heard it somewhere years back, and I like it, still love it to this day. It's so like it makes it hits home every time. So when it comes to like the messaging to be like related, like relatedness to potential customer, you just talked about it. Somebody's just opening up their med spa. You're gonna be like talking to them in a bit more nuanced way. You're gonna be more relevant, right? Imagine so it goes like this. Imagine like a theater, right? And also, by the way, I also use this when I'm talking to customers who maybe like have a website, and I look at the website and like I straight away I see why it's not converting. It's all about them. It's like us, our services, us, blah blah blah. They're not talking to you, right? And the analogy is if you're in a theater to go and watch a show, you're gonna pay a ticket. You're gonna sit down and the lights are gonna be pointing at the stage, right? Which is good if you go to a theater because you want the focus to be on the stage, on the actors. But for some reason, some businesses think they need to approach their website content the same way. Like they point the light at them. What you need to actually do is you need to take the reflectors on the stage, turn them
Turn
around
around.
and on the people sitting in the audience and highlight them, right? Only because that's how you're gonna make it more relevant and related. So they're gonna like, oh, they're talking our language. Like, where we're at, our struggle. Great.
Yep.
And then you
Yeah.
marry it up with the service, with the option,
Yeah,
with the
and
offer.
and back to high level. Oh my god, like we are so blessed. We have like one of the most amazing funnel builders that's just like right at our fingertips, especially with all the stuff that Gus and Son just dropped in there with all the pre-built templates. Like
Oh
we could
yeah.
take those, customize them, and really like hone in on what those pain points are, like you said, and serve up copy that is speaking to them and what's hurting them right now. Because like very much a funnel is like a psychology thing. First of all, you want to speak like you're talking to a 5-year-old. The average reading level in the US is like a 5-year-old level, fifth grade, I should say, excuse me.
All right.
Yeah, 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 not 5-year-old, fifth grade level. So, you got to make your copy super simple and have to speak to those pain points. And then you have to talk about how your services are going to solve their problems because nobody cares about just services. All they care about is what the benefit to them is ultimately. So if you can speak to those with compelling sales copy, that's one thing I've learned along the way going from a generalist agency to really like niching down is like now it's even easier for me to do that because I've taken a lot of the complication from all these other industries out. And now I can speak to one audience that I know is the audience I want to sell and I enjoy working for.
And the longer you stay that focused, like stronger that referral network is going to become, and less cost per acquisition is going to be like low the cost of acquisition is going to be for you. So it just makes perfect sense overall, right? Now,
Yeah, 100%.
can we talk? So we talked about services. So it seems like Google Ads is your superpower for that specific niche that you've got experience in, plus some foot in the door solutions at high level. But um, I'm curious, like specifically on the high level side, on the CRM side, when because you don't just sell services, do you sell subscriptions as well, right? You've got your
Mhm.
what's the white level version of your high level
It's
called?
it's BizFlow, BUZFLO. It's a trademarked, and I kind of combo it BizFlow MedSpaTools, AI
Nice.
CRM. Yep.
Awesome. And so how do you bundle it? Do you get the customer to pay for subscription for the software plus the services?
So very much like a SWAS, so SWAAS. So what I started doing as a generalist agency a while ago is I started just selling my services and giving high level away free. You just got high level. And instead of invoicing clients, this is a big shift for me too. I started just signing people up for subscriptions. Then I didn't have to invoice people anymore. It was an auto renewal. Everything was automated. So like there's like a huge piece for like high level and how it can change even your billing process because I decided like, why am I invoicing clients? I can just give them access to the CRM. It's a sticky service. And then suddenly they're starting to use some of these tools. Plus they're on retainer for Google Ads or whatever service they signed up for. That really changed things really drastically for me when I switched over to doing that. And with like the CRM, we will sell a snapshot that is specific to med spas, and that's the BizFlow MedSpaTools. So a med spa could sign up for that if they're looking for some sort of CRM or marketing platform, and it's all customized. I mean, I got granular enough to where building out all of the different products, having calendars ready to go, having pipelines ready to go. And once you kind of learn all those little things, like they can get in there and really utilize it. And I've only heard great things like the med spa I was working with, like they work with a lot of different softwares a lot of times. And I've already heard this from a few is like, wow, I just love working in here. And then when you do things like customize the dashboard and get into the weeds, then it like looks kind of sexy. And that's what people want. They want something that's easy to use and sexy. And but back to what you asked me, giving it away in your retainer works the same way. You're not giving anything away. You're just providing the CRM for free, kind of, but you're still on retainer and you don't have to worry about the invoicing because basically you've got everything on subscription. It just the money comes in, it's a much better flow.
Well, I think also to what you're saying, to add to that, I think the churn is also an important aspect, and the perception of the customer. Like we know that if it's just a retainer for services, there's higher, like there's the lifetime of a customer is generally shorter. Like they can drop you
100%.
any month, right, and they just discontinue the service. But if you get them on a software as the backbone of it, and then the service is on top of it, or it's a bundle, but it's like it can be separated. So in the view of a customer, they can, if they decide, they can drop you for the services, let's say the paid ads, because for whatever reason, let's say they don't need any more leads for now, they're good or whatever, right? But they're never going to drop the software because, especially if you can really indoctrinate a client to use it heavily as their main CRM, because like how would they
Yeah.
drop it, right? Why would they drop
Yeah.
it? I
Yeah.
mean, it's really
Yeah.
difficult as well.
Yep.
So
Yeah, so I could definitely speak to that. Like, if you get somebody on like a review campaign and use Zapier or Pabbly or one of those to integrate those bookings to start coming into the CRM, and then they start building a big client list within your CRM, they're not going to want to move it over. They're just not because it's difficult to move in between CRMs. It's not a fun thing to do. And that's going back to the sticky services. And I've done some things differently with that. Like, so I don't know if you've seen what I've done in the high level community. I'm not real prominent, but I have posted just recently, and I'm starting to do a YouTube channel on things I figure out as I figure them out. But like the little thing, like on the dashboard integrations where you can embed an iframe, I figured out how in Looker Studio, I could take a specific Google Ads account and I could embed the Google Ads Looker Studio, Google Ads dashboard directly into their dashboard. So if I have a client that's paying for one of the retainer services, I will just customize the dashboard specific to their services. So they see
Nice.
nothing else. So they log in, the first thing they see is their Google Ads report, and like little things like that just save you because like you said, like retention is because a lot of times, we might be doing work on their Google Ads account, or we might be optimizing, or we might be doing whatever on the back end. The client doesn't know that. And if you're not good about 2-week check-ins or 1-month check-in or whatever your process is, you better have something in a piece of software that shows that you actually are doing it. And so that's what I love about HighLevel is when they look in to look at their leads or go look at their pipeline, the first thing they see is whatever service you're providing. And I think that's so important. And it does take away from having to like automate email reports or, I mean, you could still do that, of course, but having those little touches to customizing it specific to the client is huge.
I'm a big believer of thinking of marketing as not just something to acquire a customer, but it's an ongoing journey, even when they are a customer, these touch points, because you want to have that relationship stronger. Because when the customer is more engaged with you and you're more engaged with them, they're going to be more likely to like become evangelist and then referrals. And then, you launch your affiliate campaign. It just makes perfect sense. I mean, you look at HighLevel. I mean, it's one thing I really like about HighLevel is that they don't really have a sell. I've heard Matt DeSano. I just interviewed him. It's an episode that's going out. Well, it just went out last week, actually. I'm thinking of that now
Like
in the
that.
chronological order. Right?
Yeah.
And he said to me that HighLevel actually doesn't have a sales team like Salesforce, HubSpot. They've got massive sales departments. HighLevel doesn't have any, apparently, or maybe they've got few, but I don't know. But like,
We are the sales team, my friend.
we are the sales team, right? So because they don't have to worry about that, they can focus fully on the product,
Yep.
continuing to develop it. And it's weird. I mean, at the moment, at this point, they must have got like 100 developers or something, and it's a massive company. But to me, they still act like a startup. Like they do these quick changes, quick updates, really like what's the word? Like very very nimble, in terms of that.
Yeah.
Because when you look at other big corporations, to make a change or to release a new update, they often
Takes
like have to
forever.
have freaking board meetings or whatever, and then here you go, like just hey Sean coming at you, and then I mean, no, oftentimes he doesn't even know what's up. He just reads it out of the Slack channel from his developers, and
Yeah.
then But I mean,
Yeah.
I love that. It's
Yeah. Yeah. The auto logs, like I'm blown away. Like again, being a smaller agency and like figuring all this out and just like constantly like seeing changes and they're like absolutely geared to improving agency life. So like thank you to HighLevel. Like first of all, like it changed the way I do things and has really just improved all of our processes and workflows and how we communicate with clients, how we follow up, and seeing those continual updates just day in day out is just amazing. And like if you're in the community and you've posted about something or somebody has an issue, you see like Sean Clark getting in there, or one of the developers getting in there and, hey, let's look into this. And, you see Sean Clark tagging whoever's working on that specific product. So it's just, man, it's amazing to see that much interaction with the community. And I think that's really where a HighLevel just like crushes everybody else is there's a big community of people and people within HighLevel that are all supporting us all. So it's just amazing.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Zach, I've got a few more questions in terms of like how you run your agency. If you're open with like me questioning you on that, I'm just thinking,
Please.
it'd
Should.
be valuable to other folks listening. I was curious, how do you handle like the tech support side of things when clients are using the software? Like, do you have a system in place for that, or do you just dive in and help them troubleshoot yourself or your team, or what do you do?
Yeah, so I definitely started out just by diving in. Early on, I would just record looms and send those out. But I'm actually in the process right now of creating my own free training library for all of the really simple things that clients need to know to just get started, like email setup, domains, all of the things that I don't need to record, a million looms for. I can just do it once, embed that training library directly into the platform. You know, I will scale. I know I will. And as I scale, I'm going to be looking at products like Matt DeSono's, go HighLevel Pro Tools or Bing Singh's Extendly. I mean, those are all great ways. If you really start scaling, and I can see it, and it's just amazing to know that when you start scaling, there are ways to take that pressure off of you. And that's just incredible to know. Seeing right there within the community, we have these people. Yes, there's a cost associated with it, but not having the headache of trying to get in there and like solve everybody's problems, but give them a support system is just massive. So I'm really actually excited to watch your interview with Matt DeSono. Speaking of that, I listened to the one on, Being Sing. It's like all these guys started where we were. They started as agencies. They served up a specific niche, and then they found some problem within high level and solved it. And it's just amazing to look at them. It's like, wow, okay, these are things you can do. So for me, I don't look at that like, I look at success as like inspiration. A lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't look at success because, that'll drag you down. Man, it just gets me excited. Like, I'm like, it's not even about the money. It's just about like building
Yeah.
something and having the
I don't,
accomplishment that you can do it.
100%. I don't know what they're on about. I mean, I'm all for like success and get inspired. Actually, shameless plug. Speaking of that, I've my first podcast that I launched. It was 2019, just on the brink of COVID starting. I launched a podcast called Success Inspired. Literally, I was working for a gym at the time because I needed to get myself employed because it was like a pathway to get sponsored by an employer in order to obtain a permanent residency in Australia, in order to ultimately get citizenship, which me and my wife, we now have. It's awesome. Anyway, I was working at that gym for about 2 years because I kind of had to. So I had to put my business on the back burner. And I was like, at that time, I was like, oh man, I'm really looking forward to like restart my own business again. But I was also lacking a bit of confidence because it's been a bit of a gap, right? And also working from home, the COVID period, like we're all isolated. You're like, and so I had an idea, like, what if I interview other people that are doing it, running their businesses, really successful? And it was all basically just to boost my motivation and my confidence again. So for me, inspiration from other successful people has worked like big time for me. And that podcast is still out there. I haven't really done any episodes, by the way, guys. If you're kind of interested in that one, it's not specific to high level or anything. It's very broad, more like entrepreneurship. People from all sort of walks of life. There are people from like successful business owners, but there are also successful people in like as a lifestyle. Like for some reason, I had like families living on a yacht. I had like 4 separate families interviewed living on a yacht, like literally one. Hey, we sold our house and we just packed our shit and we went on. We traveled to Puerto Rico with our kids. We bought an old yacht and now we've been sailing for over a year across Atlantic, and we just YouTube that and sharing that sort of journey and how they handle their lifestyle. But like to me, like that's pretty cool. Like I wouldn't mind to try that. I don't know if for a whole year, but see if you
Yeah,
guys check it out. It's
inspiring stories, man. Like they give us a lot of the resolve that we need to kind of move forward and see, oh yeah, these things can be done. I actually went back and I watched a lot of your old stuff to see where it all came from. And I think it was what, like 8 months ago or something you started when did you start this podcast? How long ago
well,
was that?
how it started was when it started was November last year as an idea, and literally this all happened on the backbone of me taking the bullet, biting the bullet, and investing. Buying a flight ticket to go to US and go to Level Up Summit. That's where it all
Yeah.
started. Like at the beginning of last year, I was like, if I'm gonna make it big, if I'm gonna make it successful for me, I need to be around. I need to be really surrounded by the people that are like. So in January, I bought my flight tickets. In October, I went to Level Up Summit, made a lot of great new friends, and one of them was, sorry, Andrew Kamite. I just had a blank. Andrew from Chit HQ, or he's no longer part of Chit HQ, but we really hit it off, and I don't know if you've been to Level Up Summit, but the way it works, it's 4 days, guys. And I mean, at the moment of speaking of this, the Level Up Summit just happened, right? It's 4 days, and you've got vendors, amazing vendors, all presenting their product services that are really amazing. And then you've got the conference, and there are really amazing speakers. Last year there was Billie Jean and Frank Kerr and all these big people. And that all sort of happens through the day until around 5. And around 5 o'clock, funny thing happens. Some of the vendors actually change their stalls into like a bars, and they bring their own, like I think Bayan had it from accidentally, and they brought in on their own bartender, their own barman. and he started mixing cocktails for everybody for free, like as you're just hanging there. So people start getting more tipsy, and then it turns into let's go for dinner and let's go at the bar, right? So, you start drinking beers, and then here you are, like talking to people, like had
Yeah,
really
it
good
seems
conversations.
it seems like you meet everybody at the bar. I've listened to a lot of your so
Yeah,
awesome.
that's true. Yeah. So that's, so basically the long story short is me and Andrew were talking about, like, as you like, what do you like, what I like, and like we kind of both like Joe Rogan, like we talk about Joe Rogan. Man, I really like that podcast, and like, yeah, man, me too, man. You know what would be cool if like there was like something like that, but like high level, like high level related podcast. Oh man, we should totally do that. And so that's how that started. We thought about it, and then it came up with the first episode launched in November. Andrew's no longer on this podcast because not that we parted ways in any bad way, but he's got himself, he's working for high level now. So he's got some
He's direct.
restrictions on that. Yeah, he can't
Yeah,
can't do it.
he's corporate. He did
Yeah. Yeah. He did it. Well,
it.
I spoke to him recently, and he's like, man, I don't know what to do with my time. Like, I've got these free weekends now. I'm like really enjoying my time. So yeah, good for him. Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Yeah,
Good
I
guy.
I actually went back and I watched the first high level with him. So I wanted to just see like where it all started from. Again, it's just like, understanding who you're talking to and what crowd you're talking to. And the high level crowd is just amazing. Like I wish I could have been at the summit. It's just so crazy with little people and starting the business. But I plan to next year be there, and I'm gonna keep putting myself out there. I mean, this is my first podcast ever. I've never done this before.
Well,
But
there
I'm
you
starting
go.
to do
You're doing great,
YouTube
mate.
and yeah, man, I appreciate that. But I love what I do, and I like talking about it, and I have no fear of doing that. And I think that's just all the years I spent in the auto industry doing that miserable, amazing educational job. I don't
Yeah.
know how else to explain it.
I've got some more questions here related to one more questions related to your business, and then I've got some rapid fire questions, high level related. So this one is more about like the journey ahead. So like everybody's got different goals with their agencies. Some are looking to build it and cash out. Others want to keep it lean, lifestyle focused. Where do you see Pulse Marketing going long term? Are you like growing it to sell it, or is it something you want to keep running as your own thing for the long haul?
So I think it's too early to tell. I think that's going to come down to, how much time does it take away from family? Ultimately, I see, a lot of agency owners sell and then they start a consulting agency of some type. So I might like to go down that route, but I'd like to see where this goes. I'd like to see how big I can make it and make sure that I'm still managing my time properly. So that way, the demands of the business don't take away from family. That's really important for me. So if it does, at some point, I'll probably rethink how I want to approach that down the road.
The good thing is that there are people always looking to purchase other agencies. I see it all the time in the community. So for those guys listening as well, just so you know, that's always an option if you are looking at that. Onboarding. Let's talk about onboarding. Onboarding your clients can make or break a relationship, especially when you're dealing with software like high level. How do you handle onboarding? Like, do you have like a specific process you swear by that makes things smooth for both you and the client?
Yeah. So for sure, that's something that I knew I needed to do right from the get go, because if you don't onboard properly, it really leads to a lot of angst with clients in general. So one of the first things I did was teach myself how to set up an onboarding funnel. And so, of course, if somebody purchases the product, it auto generates an agreement. Then they can schedule an onboarding call. And then I've created a video process that shows them how to log in and get started. And then, once they book the call, I can make sure that everything else goes right. And I've done that with every one of our services. So since we do essentially sell services and give the platform for free, it basically onboards everything right from the get-go, right after they pay. And I think that's a really important piece of it, is having that streamlined. And I'm not sure that I've done it the best way, but so far it's worked very well for me. And it's been pretty streamlined. So, and I actually set up, it's funny, this new landing page that I created in WordPress, I actually tied it to multiple sales funnels. They're all kind of duplicated specific to the services, but they all have the same process. And so
Right.
basically the client goes in, they pay, then it auto generates the contract so they can sign the agreement. Then from there, it'll take them to a custom form that I created that they fill out all their business info, which preloads the account. and then they schedule their onboarding call, and then there's a video tutorial. So it's a 4-step funnel for each of the services.
How do you make the form to preload their account?
So it is a little bit trying. So the form doesn't always update the primary name of the account. So the only real thing that I've noticed is the form is sending all that data into the profile, but it's not updating the name. So that's something it's just a little granular thing that I've got to work on, but it works. I mean, it works pretty well. Yep.
Do you use it? Do you do it through Zapier, or how do you, so the form is on your agency sub account, but then it updates another sub account. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yep. Yep.
So how do you link, how does the submission of the form know which sub account to update?
Well, it's generating a new account. So after they pay, then there's an account created,
Okay.
and then that form pushes to that paid account.
Right. Okay. So that
It was a little
makes,
complex. It took me a little bit to figure out. I was like, I have to have them pay first and put their info in, which generates the sub account, and then that form will update that account.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I was just curious because my process is, I'm letting the SaaS configurator spin new sub account, but then part of my onboarding is, and there's many ways to skin the cat, right? Part of my onboarding is they, similar to you, like they fill up a survey, they provide information about their business. There's some compliance questions like, what niche, what industry are, which are the questions that you need to, like information that you need to have in order to like set up A2P and DLC and all that stuff.
Right.
But, at that point, their sub account is already opened, right? So I'm more
Yep.
curious, like if you knew, if you knew how to update already an existing sub account from a form, but that may be a question for
I threw it
somebody
in
else.
the
I don't know.
community, and Sean actually answered the question. He says, just do it from the snapshot standpoint. But what I did do is I used the SaaS configurator like you, is I created the products in the SaaS configurator. And a lot of times we'll have a setup fee and then the monthly reoccurring, and the product is associated with that funnel. So, and then it, with the SaaS configurator, you've got a preloaded snapshot. But I haven't found a completely seamless process, but this works pretty well for us.
Yeah, because like you can use custom values to update many things, but you can't update
Account name and all that. Yeah.
the business profile. Yeah, you kind of like have to do
Yeah.
it manually unless there's an API.
I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, well, by the way, after this podcast, if somebody wants to jump in there and share their process with us that does that, I'd love to hear about it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a really easy way for that, guys. We have a group. I call it the Legends group, which is basically any of you that are fans of this podcast and want to be inside a group and sort of interact on a more regular basis. If you go to HighLevel Experience com, there is a link somewhere, you find it. Speaking of links, Zach, you've got an offer. I know this is, most of the guys here are fellow agency owners, so this may not be related, but you never know who's listening, really. They might be a MedSpa owner listening to this, looking for some help, and you've got an offer. Do you want to pitch it, or do you want me to pitch it?
Yeah, so I'll talk about it, and I'd love to have you interact with that as well. So it's MedSpaTools, and one thing that we've done differently is we built out customization within Go High Level that has all of the predetermined products, calendar specific to this industry, as well as nurture sequences that can really change the process of how you communicate with the client after they book with you. So one thing I find is that if you create some sort of reward or loyalty program, and we've already got this in our snapshot, it makes a huge difference. And we've seen really amazing results with the existing MedSpa clients that we work with. And then little things like if you're having trouble with engaging with clients or missing calls, or you can't keep your office staffed, the advanced missed call text back sequence that we already have pre-built in the snapshot is amazing. It'll change your life and how your office works. And then you can get back to making sure that your injectors are able to take care of the clients and you're able to provide the services and not have to worry so much about trying to just deal with the incoming volume of people coming in every day.
Again, that's the most important. Focus on what you do best. Focus on the good quality service. So guys, if this is in interest of you, you can find out more about this offer by heading over to highlevelexperience.com/MedSpaTools to learn more and get started. Zach, before we wrap up, I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. What about HighLevel originally grabbed your attention? Was there something specific or problem you were trying to solve? Now, I know we already kind of touched on it a little bit, so
yeah,
go ahead anyway.
Yeah, no, 100%. Again, it was a sticky thing. It was like, I knew that like just having a retainer with clients and without having some sort of system that I could provide to clients that would give them a billing portal, that would give them access to reports, give them access to other marketing tools. I knew that without that, my retention level would be way down. And so the main thing that grabbed me early on was seeing that I had this amazing marketing platform that would keep the client engaged with us and take away from some of the reporting challenges that I had initially. So that was really it for me. It was like, okay, this is a retention tool for us. And that's really what it came down to.
Nice. What new high level feature or like, well, the latest marketing tool, but mostly high level feature, are you most excited about right now and why?
So, man, there's like too much to choose from. But ultimately, like my favorite thing is just the workflows themselves in conversational AI. Like the things they've done with conversational AI and workflows is just absolutely incredible. And, it started out early on, it wasn't super accurate. And there's a lot of choices out there, CloseBot and Consolidat and all the other ones. But like having something in the tool to where we can provide the QAs and train the bots and set up web chat, like those, just the AI piece of it that we can integrate into all these workflows. That's my favorite thing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. One thing I'm looking forward to, I don't know if that's on the IDs board, I haven't checked, but you know how like on ChatGPT, when you create your own agent, it's always better because then you can work with, there's pre-existing knowledge. I do that a lot. I wonder if there could be an agent that automatically generates based on the sub account name, and it generates based on everything that's already in the sub account, like any websites, any web pages, any funnel pages you've already got there. The bot would automatically just pull it into its own knowledge library. And every time you've made any update to any copy on the pages, it would pull it in, including emails and the workflows and everything like that. Wouldn't
Yeah,
that be
updating the
awesome?
notes section. Yeah, like if they could get the conversational AI to like update the notes field for everything that pertains to the client, oh my God, that would be absolutely insane. Now, I know you can do some stuff that's similar to it with workflows, but it would be so great if the AI could do that. And I do know that Consolidat has created like an onboarding agent that doesn't even require a workflow. And I actually just signed up for that thing recently. I plan to actually add that to a bolt on for my Go High Level services. So if you haven't seen Consolidat and some of the stuff that you can do with chatbots there, absolutely incredible.
I saw something Ross was posting about that. It did pique my attention
Inception
for
bot.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it does sound very, very interesting. I have to interview him about that soon. What are you looking forward to like in the upcoming future releases?
Yeah. So good question. I don't know, man. Everything's exciting for me. Every time I feel like I'm a kid in the candy store every time they release something. But again, it's like, it's definitely a distraction thing. And like, you like, oh, look at this feature. I want to like get in there. I'd say probably the number one thing though, and I don't know if they've already changed it, was the new contacts dashboard with the really granular look at individual contacts. Have you seen that? It was in the Go Level community. They showed like kind of a preview of what the contacts dashboard would look like. And it's like way more streamlined. It was like a legit CRM view for individual clients, like
I
really,
think
really
I
nice
saw
looking.
something, yeah, because that has been behind a little bit in terms of UI as well. I mean, we're talking about it right now, but Level Up Summit would have probably at this point already happened, and they
Yeah.
said released about 140 new features.
Yep.
So
I don't know. I'll
who
have to get in
knows?
there and play.
Yeah, very
Yep.
excited. Mate, we've got this segment on the podcast called the Beef, which is basically constructive feedback about high level to improve the platform and ideally to get some upvotes on an ideas board. Do you have like any particular beef that you'd like to share?
Not really. No, man. Like I feel super blessed to have it. Are there things that are annoying? Like recently I tried to integrate a chatbot into WordPress and the API keys won't work no matter how many I generate them. And I know they're just inundated with requests, but no, man, I could complain, but there's no point, man. Like the fact that they
Oh, no,
provide as
no,
much value.
sorry. I
Yeah.
didn't mean like it's not a complaint segment. It's more like, I've got an idea about how this could be better and what that is.
I love that. Yeah. Right now, I feel like they're pretty on it, man. Like I
Yeah,
could. But no, I feel like they're on it. I really do.
nice.
Yep.
I'm happy with that answer. That's all good. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I just put this together as a segment because I was trying to get some upvotes on a few things that I've
Okay,
submitted,
I do.
and
I do have one thing.
yeah,
I
and
changed
high
my
level
mind.
doesn't
I
high level
changed my
doesn't let
mind.
you promote those. You know what I mean? So it's
I
just
changed
like,
my mind. Okay, I do have a beef, and especially
okay,
since I build websites all the time, please update the mobile menus. Because if the websites have updated mobile menus, it would change my life for building sites and funnels. Like, quite honestly, that's the one reason a lot of times I step out and build sites in other platforms is because I can't like granularly adjust the look and feel of mobile menus. So
the
give us some
hamburger menu is what you're talking
oh
about.
yeah, yeah. And the mobile navigation, it's just
There's
so
not enough
basic. So
options.
yeah, so like give
Yeah,
me some mega menus, give me some dynamic elements, like just something to make that part of the website builder better. And I'll probably start using it a lot more.
awesome. Now, the rule with this, guys, if you listen to this and you agree, I agree with this. I think it's a good suggestion, but it's only as good as a thin air unless it's been posted on the ideas board so it can get some upvotes. So have you posted it in there?
It's on the upvote for sure. And I
You
upvoted it.
you have? Okay, cool.
It's already there. Yep.
Do me a favor after this. Send me a link and I'll put it in the show notes. So the rest of you guys listening, you can actually go straight to that and give it an upvote as well. Because that's how it works, right? It's community driven and it's a good thing. All right.
Awesome.
So I think, mate, we covered so much. This has been, very
It's been great.
insightful episode. I've really enjoyed speaking to you about, what's working for you and where you're at on your journey. One thing I was going to ask you, if you could do it all again, like what do you wish you had known when you started your your SaaSpreneur journey?
Yeah, to be more focused on the niche, man. Like I spent a lot of time really focused as a generalist agency and I tried to learn too many features at once. And so if I were to go back again, I would say like really take the time to learn specifically what speaks to your niche and those pain points and figure out what tool does that without trying to learn all the tools because it can become really overwhelming.
Nice. Zach, if somebody wants to check out, speak to you, how can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook. I know all the links are up. We also have a business page, Pulse Marketing Solutions. We have Pulse Marketing Solutions is pulsemediadigital.com. And MedSpaTools is medspatools.com.
Zach, thank you so much, man. Here's the thing. Next year, Level Up Summit, are you going to be there on stage with me to pick up our SaaSpreneur awards?
Yeah, man, I'm doing it.
Boom.
I'll be there.
That's it. Let's do it. And
All
then
right.
we'll celebrate at the bar. Guys,
That's where everything happens, by the way, for Vit. And I think I'll be there with you. We'll do it together.
man, I come from Czech Republic. We're big beer drinkers, so yeah. If there's
Hey, married
good
to a
beer,
Mongolian
that's
lady
me.
and vodka and no, I've had to step way back, but you got to have fun occasionally. If you don't have fun, what's life all about? So
100%, mate. 100%. Mate, thank you again, once again, to take a leap of faith and this being your first podcast. I appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed it. Guys, thank you as well. Thank you for listening to today's episode on the HighLevel Experience. If you've enjoyed today's episode, then please share it with your fellow agency mates and other high levelers that you think would also benefit from listening. For show notes, links, and extra tips to help you grow your agency or your SaaS at high level, please go to highlevelexperience.com. If you want to check out Zach's offer, head over to highlevelexperience.com/MedSpaTools. That's right, MedSpaTools. So guys, for show notes, links, and extra tips to help you grow your agency or your SaaS high level, please go to highlevelexperience.com. And if you want to check out Zach's offer, head over to highlevelexperience.com/MedSpaTools. On that page, you're not only going to learn about Zach's offer, you're also going to learn about 3 little offers, like free offers that I offer. If this is your first rodeo on the podcast, I'll remind you again, or I'll repeat what it is. Number 1, there is a tool that helps you figure out your rebilling costs per different countries. So if you're serving other countries, you want to figure out if somebody's, getting $10 of credit recharged into their account, what does that give them? You want to have a really good answer. That tool does that. It generates a little paragraph for you. The second tool is like a little code. You can protect your copy on the pages. And the third tool, it's one of the most popular ones, is the Deep Links Generator, which is a tool that helps you generate links that you can put in emails that take your customers to a specific area of high level instead of them trying to click a button, get to where they need to go to, which, can be time consuming and also frustrating if they don't really know that software just yet, because if they're new, they wouldn't. So just give them a direct link, and it'll go a long way in making their journey easier. And also, I'm pretty sure it improves your retention. So check it out. That's all on that page. And with that, guys, thank you again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it. And if you want to get updated, you can also subscribe to a newsletter, all on HighLevelExperience.com. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks, Vit.